Welcome everyone, we're getting back. We're here in the studio. We're going to do some still life painting. We're going to try some watercolor paint tubes. You'll usually, when we do still life, I'll usually show you the backboard, which I made out of some foam board, white foam board. You can just tape some foam board together and make yourself a platform with a background like so. You can set that across from you when you're at your art table, or if you're working in a seated position, you can set this on a table or a chair, or maybe a chair with some boxes on top. However you have to do it, the best thing to do is to get it so that when you're looking at your subject matter, it's at eye level like this. And this way you can draw these, some of this subject matter. We're doing paint tubes today. We can do these at eye level so that it's a little more simple than doing it in three-dimensional view. Paint tubes, I think you can get away with doing them in three-dimensional view because they're not that extremely difficult to draw, actually. But to keep it safe, we keep things in two-dimensional view. You can always try it in two-dimensional first, and then you can take it and lower your foam board down so that you are looking, let's say, down at your subject matter, maybe a little more like that on a 45-degree angle, as if you're standing at a countertop in a kitchen and you're looking down on some things on your kitchen countertop or your kitchen table or a dresser or something of that effect. So we're going to get started here, but just a kind of an idea. You can use a foam board taped together in an L fashion to do your drawings. So I have some paint tubes across from me, my foam board in my studio here, and we'll just get started. We'll do some drawing first, and then we'll do a little painting. And this is just a nice quick composition to keep practicing our drawing skills and also our painting skills, and keeping an eye on our brush handling skills as well, learning how to handle the paint, the water, keeping things going in a good direction. So I'll start out, and I'm going to start here. And I'm going to go real slow and just take my time. I'm doing a tube of paint across from me. I'm seeing a shadow over here, so I'm going to draw that shadow in. Then I'm going to come back here. I'm going to draw in the paint. There's a colored paint stripe on the top of the paint tube, so I'm going to do that here. It goes there, comes down there. And then like this, and we go like that. Got the bottom of the tube. That looks pretty good. We have just a seam down the tube like so. Then there is a stripe across here, and then another black. Okay, and then just about here, I do see a little bit of the cap. Like so. And then we'll start on our next tube here. And I just look and see where it is compared to this point on my first tube I drew. And it's about across here, and it's about level. Okay, so I can start there. Okay, that's the cap, and then we have the top here. Okay, that's the colored markings on the tube. And I notice I went a little too far. Here I went too far back with my tube, so that's when you take your kneaded eraser and you just do a quick so there I just did a quick erase fast. And then this over here is just about there. And this is about here. So we have the top, the cap there. And we're seeing a little bit of the cap there, and then we have the outer edge of the tube here, and it's a little more here, like so. Then it goes about that far back. And it's foreshortened. And then here we have the color on the tube. And I do a little erasing there just to try to so I try to get this pretty accurate. And then there's a shadow under here. There's a shadow over here. That. Here we have a shadow like this. Like that. So we've gotten our 3 tubes drawn in here. This over here, we have a little stripe on our tube there. There's some writing on our tube there. And we can put in some of those details later with our paintbrush. That's not a problem at all. The rest will be our painting portion of this. And We have our table here. So we'll put our distant foam board. That's the, we pretend our foam board is our table. It could be a kitchen table or a countertop or what have you. And then our backdrop's up here. Our table's here. This could be a countertop again. Anything you might want to make could be a tablecloth. You can put patterns on it. You can draw in or paint in patterns on this table cloth, let's say, if you want to make it a tablecloth, or you can leave it just plain white. We're doing a composition here to practice, so but if you wanted to, you can add different things. You can add more information to this, but this is just a good start practicing on some paint tubes. We're trying to just go for that accurate look as best we can. Let's paint. Before we paint, let's just take a quick break, maybe, a couple minutes, 5-10 minutes, take a break, and we'll come back and we'll begin to paint in some of our details on our paint tubes, our shadows, our colors, and shadowing on our paint tubes, and we'll be all set. Okay, so we'll be right back and we'll begin painting. Okay, we're back. We're going to start painting our paint tubes. This is just a fun composition. Takes us about maybe 15 minutes to draw, 15-20 minutes to draw, and then another 15 or 20 minutes to paint this. So what I'll do is I just have my normal palette that I use on an ongoing basis on my channel. You'll notice I always use my Schminky palette, and these are my standard colors that I use. Pretty much very, warm on the left, cool on the right, and I'll mention my colors as I go. We're not going to use a lot of colors actually here. This will be a pretty simple composition as far as colors go. My paint tubes are across from me on the right. I have a light shining down, and the light is on this side. Shining down across this way. So you're getting the shadows here. So we're getting our shadows here on the right side of these objects. And we'll start out with, let's go with some of the darker colors here. The first tube we have is burnt umber. So we have some burnt umber here. And if for whatever reason you start out and all of a sudden you went over a line, no big deal. You just lift up with some tissue. We can also come back later with a little bit of titanium white and put some white onto a spot that we might have over painted. No big deal. And then here we have another stripe on the back of the tube like that. You'll see this goes pretty quick actually, this type of painting. The paint tubes are mostly white with the colors on the top of the tube and the bottom stripe here. So we're going to continue. I like to work left to right usually, but there was this darker color over here, so I'm working over here. Now I'll go over here, we'll do some, this is cerulean blue. So I'm going to start putting in my cerulean blue carefully. And then it's a very tiny bit across here. And then another bit there. A little bit of raw umber there maybe, just to darken that up a bit. Underneath it's a little more of a shadow under there. So make sure we get this a little bit. I had a little bit of warmer color, some raw umber under here, but it makes that cerulean a little darker, which looks good. And if I squint, it is darker. And then we'll go in with our shadow color, which will make that maybe a raw umber and cerulean blue as well. Let's see if we can get that shadow color in. There we go. Okay, that's our shadow color. Okay, then maybe we'll do a little bit of shadow over here. There's a shadow that runs across the very side of this tube, like that. There's some reflected light there, so that looks okay. And I'll do a little bit of splashing here just to loosen up a little bit. And we're going to do some more cerulean blue here. We'll get this stripe across here. And there's a little bit of the actual cover has a little bit of color on it. Actually, the cover, it's like a paper cover that goes over the tube. So that has a little bit of color on it, a little bit of shadow, just a touch, a little bit of tone, I should say, tonal value to it. Some raw sienna look. Okay, that's good. And we'll maybe come back and add a little more detail to that once this dries over here. Let's go over to our next tube. This is alizarin crimson. Okay, we have alizarin crimson there, and then the stripe goes across here. This is in shadow over here, and then we have more shadow. Raw umber, cerulean blue. So the shadow is raw sienna and cerulean blue. Underneath this tube here, then we have some more shadowing here. And a little bit there. And then again, we're going to do some cerulean blue here maybe. Let's see. And some shadowing under here. That's got a silvery color. And the same here. A silvery kind of blue. And it's a little darker under here. Over here. And some cerulean blue and yellow ochre or raw sienna for the shadow over here. We could add a little bit of red into the shadow if we want. Some of that alizarin crimson. If I do that, I'm going to add it everywhere. More shadowing under here. That's a pretty dark shadow, so I'm going to go with burnt umber and raw umber, a little bit of cerulean blue, maybe a little bit of French ultramarine blue, make it a little darker. So I'm just going to try to put that shadow in there. That's good. This here gets a little bit of a shadow there. A couple more splashes. All right, now let's let this dry a little bit. Sometimes when you work on a project like this, a small composition, it's better if you've worked quite a bit and you have good success and you haven't gotten any washes out of control, then that's a good point where you can say you still see there's a lot of damp paper here with washes on. Let's take 5 or 10 minutes, let this dry a little bit. And if we do that for 10 or 15 minutes, we let this dry, then we can go back one last time for another 10 minutes and we can finish up everything, and we're already at an advantage because we've let this dry, because some of these washes are still drying, and if we keep going, it's going to probably cause us an issue. If we're working in certain areas, it might wind up that it's going to, the colors and the shadows that we're trying to get now and the finishing touches are going to be more difficult if we're trying to do it when this is still wet here. We need some details around this cap here on this one tube, and this is still damp around here, this wash we did here. So let's wait till this dries and we can do our dark striations along the cap here. We might need some darks here on this cap and maybe a few more dark small hash marks around this cap here. But other than that, it looks like it's pretty good, but let's not let's use it to our advantage to just take a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right, we're coming back in to do our last minute details on this composition we're doing here. We're doing paint tubes, watercolor paint tubes. So we said we would give this another 10-15 minutes to dry a little bit. You can also use a blow dryer if you want quickly. I'm going to get some dark here. This is ivory black here. So the writing on the tubes is like an ivory black. So I'm going to do just a few details to somewhat, and I'll dry off my brush once I dip it into some ivory black and Payne's gray. I'll just dry it off a little bit, and then I just, a couple markings is fine. So I just do those few markings to And then we'll do a few of the caps here. There's some striations on the caps. And I try to go over the pencil marks where I had those. And we said okay, I see that we can go back in and add a little bit more. I'm going to add a little bit of cobalt blue to the shadow here with a little bit of yellow ochre as well. I just want to darken that up a bit. And the same here, maybe a little darker tonal value here. So I just added a little more darker tonal value to the shadows with some cobalt blue, just to darken it up a little bit. I think it looks better, a little darker. And we also said we were going to maybe use some white to do some touch-up. So if you need to do a little touch-up, I will take some titanium white that has a little. I'm going to put a touch of yellow ochre in the top. Mix it up a little bit, and then I have some highlight. And then here, I went over a little bit. You can put maybe a couple highlights if you want. I see a highlight here. And there's a spot where there's a crease there where it joins together the top of the metal casing for the, and a little bit of tone on that side of the cap. And that's pretty good. I think we have this completed really nicely. It's really a fun composition to do. I hope you try this. I would, try this 2-3 times. What's fun is I just take my my paint tubes and I just kind of set them down and maybe just move them around a little bit haphazardly, like on the paper or on my foam board, like that, and just let them kind of like go where they will, kind of just throw them down, and then maybe adjust them a little bit, and that's how I draw them and paint them. You can also set them up if you want. You can find perfect spots you like to draw and paint your paint tubes too as well. It works good too if you just kind of drop them down onto the board and then just move them around a little bit to kind of maybe have them so there's a little space in between each one. That always looks good with a little bit of space. Maybe you can crowd them in together a little more if you want. It's up to you how you want to do it. Crowding them together looks good as well. But that's really our paint tubes. We had a fun time, and it's always fun to do compositions like this. They don't take a tremendous amount of time, so if you're busy doing things and you're rushed and have a lot of things on your schedule, this only takes like 15 minutes to draw and 15 minutes to paint, and then you've got a nice composition that you've completed, and it feels good to get some paint on the paper and have a good time, relax, kind of de-stress, and then it's not like we're taking out a large sheet of paper and we're doing like a full painting. So again, thanks for coming along, and I always mention if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. We have fun. We paint every week. We do paintings like this, small compositions. We do full paintings. We do all kinds of subject matter, everything watercolor. We do ink and wash. We'll do flowers, landscapes, seascapes, cityscapes. Pretty much, you know, the whole gamut of, we'll also be starting to get into more drawing. So you'll see me starting to do some more pencil and pen drawings on my channel. And I'm hoping everyone's going to join along and try to work on some pencil and pen drawings. That'll be a lot of fun. We're going to work that into our schedule a little more. And other than that, we had fun here. We'll see you on the next video. And again, thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.